Hey guys, welcome to the third episode of Outsiders Opinions. We discuss four NFL franchises that have rebuilded at different levels of success in our last episode. The link is on screen and also in the video description. Please make sure to subscribe and click on the bell to get notified when we drop our episodes. Today, Austin and I will discuss four NFL teams where it is Super Bowl or bust. The first team we are looking at are the Chiefs, who are the reigning Super Bowl champs.
Yeah, the Chiefs were outstanding last year. They had Pat Mahomes come into his own. Even after an MVP season, I believe he was better last year. And the reason why he didn't win MVP is not only because Lamar played amazing, but also because he missed some games with an injury. But when you have someone at his level, uh, and you have a coach like Andy Reid, uh, it is Super Bowl or bust for the Chiefs. They have great offensive players, not only Pat Mahomes, but also players like Travis Kelsey, Tyreek Hill, McCole Hardman, and they added Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round of the 2020 draft. And even though they lost Damian Williams, who opted out, it'll be interesting to see how they perform. What do you think?
Yeah, and they retained Chris Jones. They were able to sign him to a good extension, and he was a big key player for stopping the run game, and that helped them beat the Titans. And then they also still have Tyrann Mathieu. As we saw in the second half of the season when their defense started playing better, he was a key as he's a playmaker, and I think Steve Spagnuolo did a great job at using him. And I do think it's Super Bowl or bust as Pat Mahomes, he does deserve that contract, but that he's the highest paid player in all of sports history. So I'm sure he wants to get to a Super Bowl, but a lot of people are looking for him to get multiple Super Bowl rings. And just
Yeah,
Clyde,
after you go to a Super Bowl and prove that you can win it, everyone expects you to do it again. So
especially in,
it's he just has that expectation that the chip is on his shoulder to prove that he can do it again. That it wasn't just a fluke.
yeah, and the way they won, they overcame double digit leads easily. And that offense just got better with Clyde Edwards Hilaire, as I think he's moving from a great situation in LSU to another one, as he had great wide receivers in his offense with Joe Burrow. And I think he's moving in right in as they have Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelsey, McCall Hardman. It's just, I expect them to repeat. They did lose Laurent Duvernay Tardif at right guard, so that may hurt them.
Yeah, and also the loss of Kendall Fuller, who was probably their best cornerback last season. Um, that is a loss, but I believe they have players like Rashad Breeland and Tyron Matthew can make up for it in the secondary. And their secondary, or their defense as a whole, while it's not top 10, it definitely is viable for them to get some stops whenever the Chiefs don't score on some plays. But like you said, the Chiefs can always come back because of how fast they can score. And the Chiefs defense is really good at bending but not breaking. They give away a ton of field goals. Like their points, they give away a good bit of points. The difference is they don't allow it to be touchdowns. So the Chiefs can always go down the field, score a touchdown, and then when the other people get three, eventually you'll come back. You'll come back from like you said, double digit deficits because you can hold the team to three while Pat Mahomes does his work on offense.
Yeah, I think we can move to the second team in the AFC, which is the Ravens, who just added Calais Campbell, who I think is still a good defensive or a great defensive piece. And they only got rid of him for a fifth round pick. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great addition, especially because they also added Derek Wolf. Their defensive line is looking to be a force. Um, their pass rush was good last year, but I believe it's going to get better with those additions. I like the pickup of Patrick Queen in the draft. I feel like he's going to be really good. They still have Lamar Jackson, obviously last year's MVP, who needs to prove that he can actually win a playoff game. Well, I do believe he will this year. It'll be him to have to prove it to us. He has great people to run the ball with. J.K. Dobbins, Mark Ingram, Gus Edwards, and him. To pass the ball to, he has Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews, who are outstanding. But it'll be interesting to see if they can continue even after they lost Earl Thomas. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm very skeptical of how their defense is played. Like, I know there are some off the field concerns with Earl Thomas, but he's still an incredible playmaker. And I think the Ravens had a great playmaking defense, as I believe they have Marcus Peters, who's a great defensive corner. And I think the loss of Earl Thomas is going to hurt. But also, to talk about the addition of J.K. Dobbins, the Ravens' rushing attack was already incredible with Lamar Jackson, Mark Ingram, Gus Edwards, as you said. But J.K. Dobbins is a great running back, and they got him with the 55th pick. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a great second round pickup for a team that was already stacked running the ball. They just added to it. If anyone gets injured, they have enough running back power with Gus Edwards also and Mark Ingram obviously that that injuries could not hurt them unless multiple people get injured, which I don't
Yeah,
believe will happen. The loss of Hayden Hurst doesn't hurt as bad because they still have Nick Boyle, who is a serviceable backup to Mark Andrews, who proved last year that he can be a premier tight end in the league. Um, and yeah, I definitely expect this team to prove this year that they will make it past at least the divisional round and make it to a conference championship where they could, in fact, play the Chiefs. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, you go.
And to add to J.K. Dobbins, I wonder if that's going to allow the Ravens to run Lamar Jackson less because Lamar Jackson is a fantastic runner, but it leaves him up for some big hits. And you don't want to lose your star. He's the MVP. You don't want to lose that. They also did lose an incredible right guard in Marshall Yanda, who retired after this season.
Yeah,
But I would agree, the conference championship is most likely going to be the Chiefs and the Ravens.
that's what everyone expects to happen. If everything goes as planned for those two teams, it should be them.
Yeah.
Do you want to move to the NFC now?
Yes, and the first team is the Saints, as they just added Emmanuel Sanders, which I think is a great pickup as he can stretch defenses, and he was in the previous Super Bowl with the 49ers.
Yeah,
What do you
he has a lot of experience. He's been to um before this season, he's been to three Super Bowls. He went to one with the Steelers, one with the Broncos, and one with the 49ers, obviously. And he's one of the players who has experience winning. Drew Brees, I don't know if there's other people who's the safety, what's his name?
um oh, you're I'm thinking of it too. It's the Eagle safety, Malcolm Jenkins,
Yeah,
right? Malcolm Jenkins.
yeah, Malcolm Jenkins also won a Super Bowl with the Saints back in 2010. But
Yeah.
he's won two Super Bowls. So yeah, I think those are the only three players on their roster who's won championships before, and that championship pedigree is going to have to carry them past the real down postseasons that they've had. While I do think they got cheated out of the one against the Rams, I'm not too sure that they would have beaten the Patriots anyway. The Patriots defense in 2018 was absolutely outstanding. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and I think a key they Saints still have Taysom Hill, and they also got arguably a great defensive player in James Winston, as he got third. Oh wait, he gave those picks away, 30 interceptions. But to Taysom Hill, he's a great Swiss Army knife. And then I think on the defensive side, they need Marcus Davenport to uh, step up, as they traded a 2019 first and their 2018 first round pick and 2018 fifth round pick to draft Marcus Davenport. So I think if Marcus Davenport can um, get a lot of sacks and be a great defensive force, combined with Cameron Jordan, who's a great defensive player, that'd be great for their defensive line.
Yeah, their defensive line's looking scary. I mean, Sheldon Rakins is another player who I think is absolutely outstanding, underrated. They also have Demario Davis, who is a very good and veteran linebacker who definitely holds down that the short passes and can also stop the run, which is key against certain teams who have like Christian McCaffrey, who's in their division. That'll be key of having Demario Davis stay healthy and continue to be the way he has been.
Yeah, and to go back to James Winston, he adds great depth as I think he can learn from Drew Brees, but they also have Taysom Hill. They have great quarterback depth. As last year we saw Drew Brees get hurt, but they were still able to play well with Teddy Bridgewater under center. So I think they have good quarterbacks. So they can, if Drew Brees goes down, they can still fight for a playoff spot. And that's going to be
Definitely,
very tough with their
definitely.
division they're facing.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. But again, we expect them to at least make the conference championship, and maybe they play this team. Do you want to mention?
Yeah, we can't have a Super Bowl or bust team without this team. It's the Buccaneers who signed Tom Brady, who traded for Gronkowski, and they just signed Leonard Fournette, who got cut from the Jaguars. What are your thoughts on this?
It's insane how they went from a team that almost made the playoffs. They would have been more consistent with Jameis Winston, but instead he literally threw the season away. Uh, but they have tremendous talent all over the field, not only on their offense but also on their defense. With Shaquille Barrett, they have Vita Vea, the Levante David, who is insane. They
Yeah.
also just picked up. What's interesting with me, for me, is they picked up Josh Rosen. He's now on their
Yes.
practice squad. I'm interested to see how Tom Brady can possibly mentor him into potential dynasty here after Tom Brady retires. If Josh Rosen can become the player who he was supposed to be with the Cardinals and the Dolphins. The tight ends are insane. Cameron Brate, OJ Howard, and obviously Gronk. They have a great offensive and defensive coordinator, Bruce Arians and Todd Bowles. Anything else to add?
Yeah, and to focus more on Josh Rosen, I feel really bad for him because I believe the year they drafted him is when Bruce Arians retired, and he just had a terrible team, and they went to another terrible team in the Dolphins. But I think Josh Rosen can become that quarterback everyone thought him to be. And also, I'm not sure this. I'm thinking this team is leaning more towards bust instead of Super Bowl, as they do have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, but I'm not sure if Tom Brady can get the deep ball to Mike Evans.
That's true. That's true. We'll have to see how they work that out. But I think the reason I think to put them more on the Super Bowl side of things is why they got LaShawn McCoy, why they still have Ronald Jones, why they added recently Leonard Fournette. All three of those players are tremendous receiving backs. And if you're going to run the ball, I'd probably run it with more LaShawn McCoy than I would Leonard Fournette. But Leonard Fournette is outstanding catching the ball. He can go out and catch passes that are in the short or even medium range and then do something with it. He has outstanding world class speed. So it'll be interesting. I really like the addition of Tristan Wirfs, as they needed to make sure that Tom Brady doesn't have to move too much in the pocket, and they have to definitely make sure he does not get injured, which would make it almost definitely a bust. Because I don't see Blaine Gabbert or Josh Rosen coming in here and leading this team to a championship without Tom Brady's pedigree. So it'll be interesting to see if they can keep him healthy, and if they do, I definitely expect them to at least make the conference championship against the Saints.
Yeah, and you talked about James Winston. He threw 33 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. So, and Tom Brady doesn't need to be the old Tom Brady of a few years ago. He can be the Tom Brady of last year with 24 touchdowns and then just only 8 interceptions. So I think if you just have Tom Brady, and I think last year he didn't have as well as an offense as he does now.
Definitely.
So he can rely more on his running backs.
Yeah, the only two players I believe were above decent for Tom Brady were Julian Edelman and James White. Both of those players are amazing. If James White is, I think, the best receiving back in the league. He can do anything once he gets the ball in his hands from a pass. He can make, especially when linebackers line up against him, it's impossible to cover him. You always have to put a safety or move a corner in to protect. Uh, But I think the reason why he had some of those 8 interceptions, I believe it could have been like 4, because his wide receiver core didn't know what routes to run. Sometimes they dropped a lot of balls that fell into to defenders' hands. He's someone who protects the ball at all costs, and that's a quarterback who can lead them to a championship. That's what Peyton Manning did in 2015. While he wasn't outstanding at throwing the ball, he wasn't even half what used to be. He was honestly very, very, very bad at throwing the ball. The difference was in his last season, he learned, at least in the postseason, not to throw interceptions. He only threw one pick in the 3 games that he played in the postseason. Just one.
Yeah.
And that's what kept them in it. The defense did their job, and they would run the ball with CJ Anderson, and they would get passes to Emmanuel Sanders that were short. And I mean, that's how they won. It's just while he did throw a lot of picks in the regular season, it's really when the postseason when he realized the only way we're going to win is if I I I stop throwing these interceptions, and he did. He stopped, and in the
Yeah,
postseason, it proved that was the difference. He just did not throw picks, and that led them to a championship. And that's definitely what Tom Brady can do in the regular season too. While Peyton Manning threw 9 touchdowns and 17 picks in that season, I definitely expect Tom Brady to throw at least 25 touchdowns with this great receiving core, and I would say around 6 interceptions at most, maybe 8. But I don't think he'll be throwing the ball as much with these great running backs he has too. And Bruce Arians is one of the best offensive minds. I put him second behind Andy Reid, but he definitely can get things done on the offensive side of the ball that I haven't seen from anyone besides Andy Reid.
yeah, and to go back to the defense, they just drafted Antoine Winfield Jr., who I know is a great safety. And to talk about Shaquille Barrett, he led the NFL with 19 and a half sacks last year.
Yeah, and their defense had 28 total turnovers
Yeah,
forced. So if they can continue that while Tom Brady's not turning over the ball, it'll be hard to score because the other team won't have the ball. Tom Brady likes long drives, methodical drives, where the touchdown pass is only 5 yards. He just is good at going to third down and then making it to first. Go to third down and then make it a first. That's what he did against the Chiefs in the championship game,
yes.
the AFC Championship. He just continuously, especially in the last part of the fourth quarter and in overtime, it went to third down like 4 or 5 times per drive. The difference was Tom Brady always gets it done on third down. He knows where he's going and he knows his people will be open. And because he still has players from that team like Gronk and players who have that experience like Marshawn McCoy last year, and he has players who like Leonard Fournette who played against the Patriots and knows how the system works at least to an extent, it's going to be easier for him to get that done than the roster he had last year.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you brought up the Denver Broncos team with the very old Peyton Manning. I think that's what this Bucks team needs to strive for. You need to do what that team did. Rely on your defense, and they have running backs. And Gronk is also a great run blocking tight end.
One of the
In
best
addition,
ever.
yeah. So I think they need to rely on their defense. This may not be a high powered offense, but I think it's going to be an offense that can get stuff done when it needs to, but it's going to rely on the run game and their defense.
Everyone needs to watch out for those 10-yard fades when they get within like first and goal, second and goal, third and goal, fourth and goal for Mike Evans. Tom Brady's always been perfect at throwing those balls, and those are the balls I think that Mike Evans can catch. And then put Chris Godwin in the slot, which I think they should do to get shorter routes so he can go run. Mike Evans isn't as fast; he's more of a jump ball wide receiver who's outstanding at what he does. But Chris Godwin's faster, and I think is honestly, I would take Chris Godwin over Mike Evans for that fact. I think is equally catching, if not maybe a little bit better from what I've seen. That outstanding catch he had at Penn State, it just proves it. And while Mike Evans makes amazing catches, the difference is cornerbacks, especially tall cornerbacks, can stay with him. Chris Godwin is someone you always have to watch out for, and he can even run the ball. You can put him like the plays they did with Julian Edelman when he ran the ball. I believe that this offense will be something that Tom Brady and Bruce Arians talk about, and it'll be picturesque. It'll be almost perfect. I don't know where they could go wrong, especially because now they have a quarterback who knows who he's throwing to almost before he throws the ball. He knows the defenses so well, unlike Jameis Winston, that he understands that this player is going to move over here. The defense is going to shift this way, and then we're going to have a touchdown eventually. He sees 6 plays ahead.
Yeah, and I think the trouble with this Bucks team is their division is so the Saints, they're probably going to be making the playoffs. The Falcons are a bit of a wild card. They can either be really good or really bad, as they just added Todd Gurley. And then the same with Carolina Panthers. They have a really probably the best running back in the league, Christian McCaffrey, but you're not sure how Teddy Bridgewater is going to work out. So the thing is, the new playoffs help the Buccaneers, but I think if the Bucks can make it out of their division into the playoffs, then they have a much better chance as they have such great experience. But
Well,
I
here's the thing. They don't even have to. They could get fourth in their division to make the playoffs now because of the new thing where there's There's the division winners, the 4 division winners, and now there's 3 wild card. So all 4 teams from a division could make it. And if there ever was a division who I think could do that, it is this year's NFC South.
Yeah.
That would be outstanding, and I believe it could happen. It could if Christian McCaffrey and Teddy Bridgewater and DJ Moore and all those great offensive assets can get things done. They could become a 7, and then the Falcons become a 6, and then you see either the Saints or the Bucks, whoever have a worse record. Even though I think the Bucks are probably going 10-6, and the Saints at 11-5 or so, 12-4 maybe. I mean, all 4 of the teams can get into the playoffs, and this is definitely the division I think could do that. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. And to just see, I'm very curious to see how the Buccaneers play. And do you want to guess who the first team they play next Sunday is?
Who is it?
The Saints. So the
Wow,
teams
we're
that
going to get
we,
introduced to this really fast.
yeah, and I think the defense is very key in their division, as that division has high powered offenses, as we just talked about. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, those are our picks, and thank you for listening to this video. If you enjoyed it, give us a like. Also, thank you to our new subscribers. We appreciate all the love. Please be on the lookout for more episodes as we bring on a special guest to talk about the NHL playoffs. Stay tuned if you'd like to hear this and more on Outsider's Opinion. Have a great rest of your Labor Day weekend.